7:21. Now, congenital CMV, you might not have heard of it, but it causes hearing loss in around 1,000 children every year in the UK.
Yeah, it feels just like a cold and is the most common virus passed on by pregnant mums to their unborn babies.
Well, now a team of NHS staff in the east of England have started the first targeted screening programme for CMV. Going to answer some of your questions in a minute, but first, here's our science correspondent, Richard Westcott, to explain.
8-year-old Naomi Parker has had to practice like this all her life. She has balance problems because she's deaf in one ear and partially deaf in the other, all because her mum Stevie caught a virus called CMV when she was pregnant. Right, hang on. Hi Naomi, how are you?
Yeah, hi.
Now, tell me, what's the name of this virus again?
Cytomegalovirus.
Cytomegalovirus. Cytomegalovirus.
Yes,
It's not a dinosaur, it's definitely a virus.
it's definitely a virus.
Okay.
I don't really hear certain letters. I replace them with different letters, so I hear different things. Sometimes people want to be like me because they like my hearing aids. And I'm like, trust me, you don't want to be like me.
CMV is a leading cause of deafness in children. It's really common and mostly harmless, but it can be devastating for unborn babies.
Ready? See if you can let go.
That's why paediatrician Tamsin Holland-Brown has helped set up an NHS team who, unpaid and in their own time, have developed Britain's first targeted screening programme for CMV.
The problem was that we were catching the virus too late and a lot of the damage was already done at that point. So we had to treat CMV within 1 month of life, and the research was starting to show that that was making a difference, that for some children it was preventing that hearing loss deteriorating, and for some children it was even actually reversing that hearing loss.
Okay, so we're going to offer baby the swab now. I have a cotton bud that I'm just going to place into baby's mouth. We go just on the inside of his cheek. Sometimes they have a little chew.
And here's how it works. Across the east of England, any new baby born with hearing problems will have this specially designed test for the virus. If they have it, they'll be offered early treatment.
Hello, is that Chloe? Hi, Chloe.
Another new arrival at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge. Little Martha's been passed fit and healthy today, although she didn't want her hearing checked.
Just a little cold.
CMV causes more birth defects than cat litter and soft cheese put together. Pregnant mums can protect themselves with simple things like not sharing a toddler's food or cutlery and not kissing a toddler on the lips or runny nose. But most don't know about it. Chloe, thank you very much, and Martha, for talking to us, having just given birth.
Okay.
Now, you're a doctor.
Yeah.
What did you know about CMV when you were pregnant?
I mean, I'd heard of CMV, I know it's a virus. There are other viruses that are talked about when you go for your appointments and other things that you're made aware of to do or not to do, but I don't really recall much anything being said about CMV.
Good.
Most babies born with CMV don't have symptoms or develop problems. But if this programme proves successful, the team hopes it could pave the way for wider CMV screening in future. But she's done great today. You can see how well she's doing. So how do you feel as a mum seeing that?
Immensely proud of her.
Richard Westcott, BBC News, Cambridge.
Well, with us, who you saw in the piece there, Dr. Tamsin Holland-Brown, a paediatrician and specialist in children's hearing loss. What struck me about this is, given I'm pregnant, I didn't actually know anything about this.
No, nobody
Why
does.
is that?
Yes, it's not well known about, and it's great that we're sort of getting the message out there for, because it's very, very useful for pregnant women to have awareness that this is a very common virus, harmless to the rest of us if we get it as a cough or a cold, but for pregnant women, then there's the risk that it might affect your unborn child. Not every time. Even if you get that virus, it doesn't necessarily mean that the baby will get it. But if they do, they can get a spectrum of illnesses. So they can actually be very mildly affected and have barely any symptoms at all, or they can be quite severely affected. and it can affect their brain and their learning and their development and some of their physical skills.
So how do you know the difference between whether you have got a cold or you have got CMV?
Yeah, you're right. It's really difficult because it is one of the coughs and colds that people get, and you can get it as a kind of sore throat and swollen glands and feeling feverish, or you actually might kind of think, oh, I'm coming down with something. No, it's actually fine. And so the thing is that pregnant women can avoid it because the research has shown that it's pregnant women who have contact with young children, because young children are the petri dishes that they are, get it with constant coughs and colds, and so it's really common for women who are constantly in contact with children's bodily fluids. So if you're changing children all the time or cleaning them, then if you just wash your hands really well after that, and then if you've got a toddler at home, then try not to share their drinks and food at the table.
Gosh, that's easier said than done, isn't it? I mean, if your toddler's climbing into bed with you or snuggling up in the night, or giving you cake that they've made or something. I mean, how do you can't avoid it.
It's so true, and one of the things that they say to avoid is to avoid kissing directly on the lips with a little toddler just while you're pregnant. So you have to kiss everywhere else and still hug them. It's fine, but it's transferred by bodily fluids. So if you can just cut down on that, you can really prevent getting it while you're pregnant.
And if you do get it while you're pregnant, does I'm assuming it doesn't necessarily cause problems in your unborn baby in every case.
You're right. This is just something that you could really increase awareness of and decrease the amount, because there's about 2 or 3 babies born per year in the UK. 2 or 3 babies born every day in the UK, which ends up being just under 1,000 a year. And so it's quite prevalent. But yes, you're quite right, it's quite difficult to...
And what's the treatment then, if you were to have it?
There's an antiviral treatment that has been coming up in the research recently, and that's been really exciting because it's something that we could treat newborn babies with if they look like they've got the first signs. And if a child's very severely affected or very mildly affected, the one consistent feature, or the most common feature that we see, is that they get a bit of hearing loss. And the hearing loss is strange. It can start in one ear, but then as the child gets a little bit older, it can affect both ears. And so it's a deteriorating hearing loss. So it can also start as a mild hearing loss and become severe. So what the treatment can do is, it seems that it gives the child a chance to stop that in its tracks, to stop the hearing loss from getting any worse. So if you can prevent a child from getting a severe hearing loss, then you can really give them better life chances, because we've only been doing the newborn hearing screen for 15 years. Before that, children were picked up with deafness when they were 2 or 3 years old, and we really knew that affected speech and language and learning.
Look, I'm sorry we have to leave it there, but thank you so much for explaining all of that.